Now I'm going to explain why you have no good reason to believe in many worlds. Well, you shouldn't believe in it because there's just no good reason to. It's because it relies on platonism about mathematics. And you probably didn't realize that. Maybe you didn't even think about Platonism seriously, like, should you be a Platonist? Well, I'm not a Platonist. I'm a nominalist, after thinking this through. So it's beyond the scope right now to convince you to be a nominalist, but let's just say you are a nominalist. And if you are, then you shouldn't believe in the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, because it presupposes Platonism. That's maybe not obvious, but I will explain it. Now, according to the laws of physics that we can test with experiments, right? Like, for example, if I take this marble and I throw it into the ocean, then it obeys Newton's laws, and I can use those laws to calculate where it's going to go, how far it's going to fly, and when it's going to come back down. And sure enough, that works out to be true even when I'm not looking. So it superficially looks like the math is predicting. Yes, it is predicting, but it's sort of, the math relates to where it goes, yes, but it's not the math doing this. It's the other way around. The math merely fits our observations. The math does not exist if you are a nominalist. It simply doesn't have an independent reality. It's just the formalism we use to describe what we observe, which we have arrived at by induction. Because we threw so many marbles or whatever, and we saw where it went. And so we have these so-called laws. You cannot extrapolate that to make predictions about unobservable things that we can never test, like those alternative universes, parallel universes of quantum physics that some physicists believe in. You cannot say that we have these equations, and these equations sort of compel these other worlds into existence, because there is no mathematics to do any such magic. And you can't test it by observing these other worlds. So why should you believe that the mathematics is so predictive that it even predicts whole different universes? I don't think you can, unless you make the assumption that the math is real. The math has independent existence apart from this universe, apart from anything you can observe. You simply cannot make that assumption. And it doesn't do any ontological tricks on some parallel universes either. It doesn't do that. It cannot do that. Because numbers aren't real. They don't exist in some kind of platonic heaven. They're just useful formalisms to describe this world that we inhabit. But that's as far as it extends. It doesn't have an independent reality. And therefore it would be foolish to think it predicts things we can't observe. But yes, it is true that it has been pretty good at predicting things that we never observed yet. And then we got around to observing it, such as black holes or something. You can predict how experiments will run that nobody has run yet. It's very powerful. It's a so-called unreasonably effective mathematics, it says. But it's not so effective that it can conjure other worlds into existence. And I would say it can't even predict them. Because a prediction is inherently about something that can be tested. Since these parallel worlds can't be observed ever, we can't say that they exist. We don't have any evidence that they exist. The math is not evidence that they exist. Maybe there are other paths to claiming they exist, like modal logic, but doesn't that just use the same kind of argument? Logic is a sort of mathematics, isn't it? And that would be unreal as well. It would be not have an existence independent of whatever it is you are talking about. And we can only talk about phenomena that we could observe, at least in principle. If you're going to use predictions derived from this world, maybe metaphysics can be more general than this world. That's the point of metaphysics, but I would dispute that it can, at least it can't conjure up alternative or parallel universes. We don't have evidence that they exist. And when we don't have evidence, and the math is no evidence, then you might as well believe in unicorns. It's just not a scientific theory to believe in them.